Hey, welcome. You're listening to the Debugging Dan podcast. The topic I'd like to discuss for today is AI providers in the AI ecosystem and the risk and dependencies go with that. So, for some context, I live in the EU, and EU has privacy laws and other laws that are different from other parts of the world, like America, for example. The thing is, most AI innovation, research, improvements, all big AI companies, Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, they are based in the US. So in Europe, we are dependent on American providers for AI. And for me as a citizen or as a developer, that's okay. I don't really care what kind of country or where the AI provider is located, as long as it works. And it works. There's not a lot of latency from Europe to the other part of the world, to America. So in daily practice, I don't really notice that. But there are some political risks there. So, for example, because the companies are based in America, the American government or the North American government can order those companies to stop serving certain companies, people. They can request data. So there's a tension there. That's why European cloud is a thing. So a lot of European companies are depending on AWS or Azure, which are also American companies that can be governed by the American government. So in Europe, there are a lot of voices going up. Is we need to also build our own infrastructure and things for cloud, but also for AI. And there is a big AI company in France, Mistral, which are doing things, but that is not on the level that OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. are operating. So those are risks. Another thing is that currently AI is not really cost effective most of the time for the company. So they're not really transparent about it, but they are still really dependent on financial injections, investors to gain money, because operating the data centers, getting the hardware, running the models, training the models is very expensive. And the current pricing models that they use, they don't cover the cost. And that's the strategy. The strategy is keep people hooked on your product, make them use your product, get that product really embedded into all organizations. And then probably at some point when you go public or you need to please your investors, you start raising prices. When you raise the price, because your product is so embedded, companies are not likely to switch, and probably also because the other suppliers are also at the point of raising prices. So currently, that's not really a problem, but people are speaking about an AI bubble because it's not really a healthy ecosystem, finance, investment-wise, to be in the AI space. And the risk there is that companies stop. So for OpenAI, there are some rumors that they are having some problems with their financial stability. They recently stopped Sora because it was too taxing on their hardware. They didn't have the space, but it's something that has not been out for long. They had $1 billion deal with Disney on it. but they still decided to kill it to focus more on core business. And at least to me, it's starting to look more like a Hail Mary and scrambling to fix things and improve the state of the company. And what I want to illustrate with those risks is that it's important that you don't rely on one AI provider. So don't embed one and revolve all your company processes around it. At least in my opinion, that would be, I guess dumb is not the right word, but it would not be strategically wise, as you're not really 100% sure that those companies will be there in like 1 or 2 years. They might have a cost structure that doesn't fit you. They might focus more on enterprise, and the company your size is not relevant for them anymore. There could be all kind of reasons that you're not able to use that company anymore. And alternatively, it could also be that when the AI company you're reliant on has a disruption, and that AI is embedded in all of your processes, your company will also grind to a halt because people cannot do their job anymore since they're too reliant on AI. And if you go, for example, a two-provider approach, like you do some kind of wrapper or tooling that is able to use both Anthropic and both OpenAI, you could switch to a different provider. That would also save you from, if one raises the price too high, you could fall back on the other one and start finding an alternative. You could switch from an American provider to Mistral, the French provider, as a fallback. So, in my opinion, it would be wise to keep your options open. And that does mean more work than just relying on one AI provider, since you need to have tooling around it. You cannot directly, well, you could, but you need to be aware that if you're building processes around a specific product, like you're really dependent on Cloud Code or co-work or something like that, you need to make sure that there's also an alternative plan in place when that's not available. Similar to how some companies, when hosting their platform, have a multi-data center strategy. You can't rely on one physical geographical location to be available always. If there's a natural disaster or something like that, it's possible that that data center gets into a problem. It's possible that your cloud provider has an issue. Then you should be able to also move to other geographical locations or alternatives. And the same applies here to AI, in my opinion. And to be clear, I'm taking the easy route here. So I'm signaling a risk or a problem that I see, but I don't have all the answers. I just see that there are risks there, dependencies. I also see them at the company I work for. And I think what's one of the solutions that I see is in open source, I guess. And it is a technical solution. But if you set up your own LLM proxy and tooling around that, for example, tool calling, accessing your local data, and if you start owning part of that flow, I think you're on the right track. And of course, that requires you to have technical knowledge. There's the effort of upkeep of services that you either develop yourself, find it open source, or you could even buy it. The important thing is that you are able to host it yourself. It's not reliant on a specific cloud technology. So if you set it up in AWS, you should be able to easily shift it from AWS to Azure or Google Cloud, so that you're not also reliant on a specific cloud provider. The tooling that you or your employees use should then be more flexible in what's available. So like all safety precautions, like similar with insurance in the real world, there's an overhead, there's an additional cost. But yeah, there's a trade-off, because when you're insuring yourself for when an event like downtime or an incredible price hike occurs, that you're able to react upon that and not sitting dead in the water. So that's more a solution of where you're using API version of the cloud providers. And there might also be difference there in prompting, content of the prompts. But I guess that's manageable in the workflows or in the processes. It's going to be difficult to get some technical or non-technical people on board. So that should also be taken into account. In a different scenario where you have developers using tooling like Codex, Copilot, or Cloud Code, what I see now as an option is to have two different tooling from different vendors. So you could opt to use Codex and Cloud Code, for example, and have that as a license ready to go for each of your developer. There's an additional cost there, but what I see is in the company I work for, we use one currently, and often there you have a fixed budget that you get as part of your subscription every month, and after that you go to usage-based pricing, which is pretty standard. And there's an additional fee on top of the API costs that you incur. And having two different tools in a subscription, that might also mean that in total you could come to a lower total cost. So when your Codex subscription maxes out on a session limit or a budget that you burn through, depending on how that specific tool works in terms of pricing, you could, as a developer, switch to your other tool and start working with tokens and working with the tooling there. And that also means that you need to set up your infrastructure to use that. So don't only have instructions for Claude in your code repository, but include instructions for Codex as well, and keep them up to date. So that's an option, and that would also allow your developers, when Codex, for example, is down, or GitHub Copilot, that you're able to move to the alternative provider as a developer and start continuing your work. So it's not only monetary in that you effectively can circumvent the more expensive usage-based pricing, but also that you're able to move to a different provider. And of course, there's also the risk there of, for example, when GitHub Copilot is down, that everybody goes to Claude, gets a new subscription, and they get overwhelmed in capacity. That's why it's also important to at least to bridge those downtime or disturbance periods, which you might even be able to use local AI as a developer. So that could be on your own laptop. As a company, you could set up some beefy server platform and spin it up in the cloud when necessary on GPUs. And you only need that in case of a disturbance, so that your developers are still able to continue at least to some level of capacity. So they might not be able to do the things that they were used to do with Cloud Opus, sit back and have the AI fix it all. But it's a better alternative than being able to do nothing, because we've become so reliant on AI that we're not able to do things ourselves anymore. So these are some topics that I've been thinking about that I wanted to share. If you liked this episode, follow me on YouTube. Like this episode. You can also like it if you're doing podcast only, like it in Spotify, Apple Podcast. And if you have feedback, leave a comment. You could contact me on Blue Sky. The socials are in the comments, and I'll be back with the next one. Bye.